Just so everybody knows. Welcome to Force Connect, the Friday night Star Wars fan talk show, a part of the streaming Star Wars network. I am one of your hosts, Nick. I am joined by, as always, my good friend and co-host, Chris Ryans. And we are joined tonight in the other Gen X Star Wars fan with facial hair chair, removing Pete. Pete is being a rock star tonight. We are so thrilled to have our guest co-host, Mr. Bryan from Serving Pink Milk, or the Pink Milk Podcast, I should say. Bryan, what's up, my friend? How are you?
Hello. It is so lovely to be back with my Lando. I should have put on my my bald cap is what I should have done.
I can't wait to shoot those scenes. Oh my god.
I'm here in my favorite my favorite shirt. I brought my Garza flip from one of my favorite Steam Queens. I love all these Steam Queens. So one of my faves.
That's right.
She always puts a smile on my face.
Outstanding. Well, we're so glad that you're here tonight. I'm excited for you to hang out. I know we're going to have a fun conversation. I know we're going to have folks calling in, so I'll throw it out there real quick. If you're watching, we're going to throw the link in the chat here in just a second. This is the show where we want to hear from you. You're the guests. We want to hear your thoughts, conversations, things that we talk about that spark a comment for you. Chime in, be a part of it. We will get to those calls here in just a little bit. But before we get going any farther, Christopher, how are you, my friend?
Yeah, man. It's been a wonderful day for Star Wars Twitter. It's been almost like a cult.
Well, I can't imagine Twitter, the connections. That's right.
Chris, we're not even three full minutes in. It's been 2 minutes and 55 seconds.
That's right. He's going there already. Well, we are going to get there because I know we have some. I know that's right. Shots for everybody. I know everybody has thoughts, and we definitely want to get to those. Yes, sir.
Real quick. This is, as you already did, you called me old, so Gen X, whatever you want to. Just so you are all clear, I am borderline Gen Y. I'm right there on the border. But for those of you that need to know which Star Wars version this is, Chris just shot first. There is no edits yet. Chris shot first.
Chris shot first. Take that for how you will. Amazing. Well, before we get any farther into any of our shooting, I am going to hit us with a couple of housekeeping items, as we are wont to do on a Friday night. It would not be my job, or I would not be doing my job if I didn't push a little bit of product, a little bit of who we are. StreamingStarWars.com. That is the easiest place to find all the things that we do on the Streaming Star Wars Network, Force Connect, Around the Galaxy, Podcast of the Wills. We are laying the groundwork for Podathon this year, so there's a lot of exciting stuff that we're getting ready to look at for that. All of your social medias, if you want it, if you need it, you probably don't need it, but these are all the places you can find us. Mostly at the SSW Network is the easiest way to find us. Facebook is actually /Streaming Star Wars. Best thing you can do is go to StreamingStarWars.com. That will point you in the direction of all the other places that we are. Speaking of StreamingStarWars.com, you can find our merchandise. We do have t-shirts, coffee mugs, all that fun stuff. And I wanted to highlight some new ones. We've kind of been on a tear lately with, somebody shoots us an idea and we're like, oh, that should be a shirt. And, usually Chris or Peter like, on it, here we go. So we have a few, including one who is from one of our regular viewers. So just a couple of examples. We do have the classic shill shirt you can get on the store. We have the SSW Network logo. In the top right of the screen, you see we have the old smoothies, which is how we tend to kind of view ourselves. We've got a little bit of Rex and Obi-Wan and Lando going on. Star Wars, it's faking in space. We also have the I Love Jizz shirt, which is a new addition to the store. If you know, you know. I even put that one on a tank top because I feel like, Bryan, that would look great on you.
It always does.
And then... See? See, this is what we knew was going to happen. This is what we knew was going to happen, and we are here for it. Also, from our good friend of the show, Angry Tasty Cakes, we did also add the Rudy Tooty Mando Shooty shirt that came up, I think on Friday. Ended up in the shop.
So good.
So plenty of shirts. Go to streamingstarwars.com. You can get to the store. There's even more than I put up on the screen. I actually didn't put them all in there. The bad backs. I know, Chris, you'll be okay. Hang in there. Cut me, I'm out. Cut me, rock. Lots of merchandise, lots of fun t-shirts. We would love for you to check those out. Go to work with a coffee mug that says I love Jis, and just wait for your coworkers to ask you about it. One other thing before we kind of dive into, our show for the evening, housekeeping wise, I did want to mention this. We are not going to be able to attend Star Wars Celebration in London coming up in just a few weeks, but we have partnered up with our friends at Tarkin's Top Shelf, and we're going to be doing some coverage stateside April 7, 8, 9, and 10 in those evenings. We've got some guests. We've got some folks that are going to send us some reports. I've actually been talking to our friend Chase, and we're going to get a report from him after his panel. And we're just going to do what we can to kind of connect with our friends that are getting to go and share some, wrap up at the end of the day from all the reveals, all the panels, all the different fun stuff that's going to happen. So we're excited to be doing that. You'll find all of that here on this channel. And it'll be a lot of fun. So if you are going to Star Wars Celebration, we are jealous. If you are not going to Star Wars Celebration, welcome and tune in, be a part of it, hang out for us. All of that to say, we don't ever start the show without a toast. And this week is no different. And I am going to bring our toast as I usually do. There's only one real obvious choice for our toast this week. And I'm going to raise my glass. I'm going to raise my Streaming Star Wars glass this week to our friend Ahmed Best. I was so glad to see Keller and Beck show up in the episode on Wednesday. And the character is awesome. But Ahmed Best, if anybody has paid attention, if you know anything about what he went through after the prequels, all the things that he dealt with, the struggles with mental health, which is something that I'm very passionate about, is something that's very real, in the world. To see him have that moment, a lot of people said, he got his redemption. He didn't need redemption. He was the one who, got crapped on and had to deal with a lot of really hard stuff. It was, the people that were horrible to him that need to be redeemed and need to take a look in the mirror and say, what are we doing here? So for him to get the opportunity to continue in this universe, to bring that character fully into canon, and what a more perfect, we've all speculated who rescues Grogu. What a more perfect choice. I can't come up with one. I really can't. I watched that, full disclosure, I watched that on my phone, laying in a tent in the woods at 3:30 in the morning, Wednesday morning, and had to resist the urge to yell and not wake up my entire family because we were camping and I was watching my phone. So I raise my glass not only to all of our friends hanging out watching with us tonight, but we want to raise a toast to Ahmed. Welcome back to Star Wars. We're so glad you're here, and we wish all the best for you in the future. Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers. We've got a bunch of friends hanging out. Go ahead, Chris.
I absolutely screamed. Now, I took a nap before the show came on, because I have to watch it when it comes out. I have to watch it.
You're there.
So at this point, it was like 3 in the morning, 3:30, something like that. And then, the Grogu, the thing with Kelleran Beck happened. As soon as the one of the Jedi, the first Jedi said, get him to Kelleran, I was like, they're doing it.
I heard the name
in the morning, and I'm screaming, and I don't even care. It was. I'm so glad they did that. Punchy Chewy Press had put out a tweet like a few weeks ago, and it was just a picture of Kelleran Beck, and it said hear me out. And then the thread was all about him being the one that saved Grogu, and I was like, I am so with that. I am so that would be great. And the fact that they did that and they gave this man his shine, he absolutely deserves it 1,000,000%.
Absolutely.
And I hope they don't kill this character off.
Oh man.
Let's get
an aged
I hope they don't.
Kelleran showing up in hiding somewhere in Obi-Wan style, Yoda style, showing up. Let's let that be a full circle moment in this show that we're watching right now. we go to this planet and there's a reconnection for Grogu and Kelleran, and it's an aged up. We could do that. I think that wouldn't be hard to do.
Yes.
I love
Bryan,
that.
what were your thoughts for Ahmed and Kelleran in that moment?
Oh, I mean, like everyone, I squealed with absolute joy, and especially as someone who's old enough to live through the prequels and had to live day to day with the Jar Jar's hate, and as an original prequelist, I was really thrilled. And then as a father to a child who watched every single Jedi Temple challenge and proceeded to try every trick on the family room ottoman, I was extra gleeful. It was great. It was really, really great.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, and it was so fun being able to point it out, not only to friends, but like my dad. We talk all the time about our dads, and my dad will call me most Wednesdays mid-morning. Well, did you watch it yet? And I'm like, Dad, how long have you known me? Of course I've watched it twice already. But being able to, and he's like, oh, wow, that's cool. Like, he really didn't know, he didn't know who the actor was. He kind of remembered Jar Jar, that goofy guy. But like my buddy Matt that I went fishing with this weekend or today, went up to the lake and we were riding the car and he was asking me questions because he was like, I'm caught up in Mando, and it was asking, and I was like, well, here's what's cool about that. And he's like, no way. Like, and he's a little bit younger than me. So like he got it because he grew up with the prequels and that kind of stuff. But being able to, it's a different level than seeing what, Dr. Pershing, I always get his name wrong. Ahmed Abtahi, the actor's name that plays Dr. Pershing. I get his name wrong. I'm terrible. But that tweet he put up about him and his son being on set and having that moment and sharing that moment. And these aren't the same things because Ahmed Best went through a lot of very difficult things.
Yeah.
But it also reminds you that like Star Wars is people. Star Wars, the productions themselves are people, whether it's Jake Lloyd who went through all the shit, whether it's, Ahmed Best that went through it, or whether it's, Ewan's daughter being, the little drug girl in Kenobi, or, Abtahi's son. There's so many connections and so many points where it reminds us that like, what are we complaining about on the internet? Like, these are real stories with real people telling them and being a part of them. And I'm just an idiot who's lucky enough to get to watch it. Like, what's going on here? Omid Abtahi. Thank you, TW. I always get that wrong. But it was special. And I was like you, Chris. I was laying there in my tent on my back, holding my phone up. And he said the words, get him to Kelleran. And I didn't watch Jedi Temple Challenge. I knew that episode. I was pretty sure that was his name. But as soon as he said that, I was like, I knew it was coming. I was right off the bat. And I was so excited. And that elevator opened and it was glorious. Like, it's exactly, it's the kind of stuff that we want that gives us those feels. And honestly gives me those, for as much as we talk about being Generation X-Wing, like the vintage feels, this is just fun. This is just good fun. Yep. It totally worked for me. Let's do this. Let's take a quick break. And when we get back from the break, I want to jump into the episode a little bit more. We've got a couple of callers already hanging out. If you're watching right now, this is the show where we want to hear from you. I'm going to drop the link in the chat while we're at the break. Hit that link. Join us. We want to hear your takes. We may keep it moving tonight. We may get a bunch of folks calling in if you have thoughts, that kind of stuff. So if we keep you short, it's nothing personal. We're just going to try and keep it moving because I know everybody has a lot of thoughts, both with Mando and Bad Batch. So we're going to do all of that. We're going to take a quick break and we will be right back. didn't move fast enough during the break. I had to refill my glass just a little
Oh.
bit. We are back. Welcome back to Force Connect, the Friday night streaming live talk show where you are the guest. We want to hear from you. We want to hear your thoughts about this week's episode of Mando, Bad Batch, all the things on your mind. We've got a couple callers hanging out in the wings. We're going to get to you in just a couple of quick minutes. Before we do, Chris, I want to come to you, and I want to go to Bad Batch for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
Hit us with recap thoughts. What worked for you this week? What didn't? Where are we with Scar Squadron? I mean, we're laying the railway, man. We're heading that way.
Yeah, and that, I mean, that was the big takeaway from this is, well, one of the big takeaways is, yeah, we're inching closer and closer to Scar Squadron, and someone had put in my ear that maybe that assistant to that cloning doctor could be a donor, or I guess the mother, a donor for Omega. And so now I'm like really just like watching everything she does, and like all of her movements, her facial expressions, her reactions to things. Of course, the fact that Crosshair shot the 2 troopers and stunned her, like shot those troopers dead, but stunned her. That lets me know that there's a lot more in the wings for her. I love that it's coming together where the team will be reunited with Crosshair in some way. It's probably I don't want to sound too much of a downer, but like it's probably not going to be a great reunion, depending on what they do with Crosshair going forward. Because I mean, there are 2 things that could happen with him, and actually both of them could happen concurrently. He could be, or not could. He's definitely going to be like part of Scar Squadron in some way, either him or a more compliant version of him. Or he's going to be like the first Death Trooper. So there's so many ways they can go with this, and I don't know about y'all, but the Empire, like this offshoot of Tarkin's initiative with Mount Tantus and what they're doing with the cloning facility and these doctors and everything. It's so. It felt so hopeless in there for like any clone. Like it just feels hopeless for clones, period, at this point in Bad Batch. And I just think it's all just being done beautifully. And the fact that it's parts of it are overlapping with Mandalorian in a way. It's just I love what they're doing to, enriching both shows and enriching the sequel trilogy going forward. Love it.
Absolutely. Bryan, what about Bad Batch for you this week?
This whole Crosshair business going on in Bad Batch is probably some of my favorite Star Wars storytelling ever. It's so good. I was not a massive fan of the Bad Batch when I first met them in Clone Wars, which I think was probably a number of people, right?
Sure.
I fell in love with all those people. I am like, Omega and Tech are becoming some of my favorite Star Wars duos ever. Those 2 together are so perfect. They're so good for one another. They bring out the best in each other, which is what you love to see in a Star Wars relationship. I am hoping, I love the stuff you were just talking about though with Scar Squadron and everything, but I really hope that Crosshair gets out somehow. And I really hope he sets out on a journey similar to Rex and Echo and really becomes a true anti-hero of all these people understand each other. They're not going to get in each other's way, but he's willing to go where they won't. And, if it's like, let's get a little X-Men gold team and a blue team and then a little X-Force action. I'm here for it. That's what I really want to have happen, because I think it would be really interesting and a complex way to talk about how to go about oppression and how to go about people trying to actively take your rights away, and that there is multiple ways to combat that, and all parts and all different ways of fighting that are valid and equally important. And I think that'd be a really interesting lesson. I felt like it was such a treat this week, because I usually get up about 4:15 to watch these. And this week, my youngest son Michael, who is a massive Star Wars fan, and he came with us when he was 4, and he has been like knee deep in Star Wars forever, and he is now 9. And so he's had it his whole life, and he's like way into Clone Wars again. I think he is like, he keeps watching them over and over and over. And last weekend, the kid like gets some what's his name? He was, Daddy, what is the episode of Clone Wars with Rush Clovis in it? And I was like, oh, dude, I love you. That is like such a deep cut. I am so happy. But amazing. Watching him, who's just now getting old enough to articulate some of these more complex parts in Star Wars and in Clone Wars specifically, and watching the Bad Batch that's right out of that, has been, because I love the clones. I don't know if I'm the person who loves each individual clone the way that some people do, but Michael is definitely that. And watching him really process these really complex emotions that are happening in the Bad Batch has just been, honest to God, a real gift. And it's the greatest. It just makes me really, really happy. And it's all these threads that George, rooted down 20 years ago are still playing out today. And they're so good. I'm just, honestly, I think Bad Batch is my favorite Star Wars right now. It's so good. It's so good.
Awesome. That's awesome. Well, I, as I've mentioned more times than I probably should have, we took a family camping trip this week, was out in the woods. I took a book with me, and I thought, after last week, after my big pitch, my big conspiracy theory, I thought, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and start rereading the Heir to the Empire trilogy. I'm going to find some other nuggets, find some other things. So if you weren't here last week, just the quickest of reminders, this is where we are. This is my conspiracy board, with, all the different connections, the cloning, the Grogu's, here's where I am. And this is actually a very idiotic, but, dumb point to bring along. We know Mount Tantus. We saw Mount Tantus at the end of last season with, in the credits or in the, and it's been mentioned as Mount Tantus. It begs the question, is this Mount Tantus on the planet Wayland? Have we had that confirmed by any chance?
I don't think so.
Which was the planet that, of course, is a part of that trilogy. So I will say I'm excited for where this story continues to go, where, the threads that it is laying the groundwork for. It is certainly laying the groundwork for not only somehow Palpatine returned. We knew we were going to get that explained over a long, period of time. But we're also getting the things that, again, how did we end up in 1977 with Star Wars with this big evil empire? Where did that come from? Where did stormtroopers come from? We're finding out these little nuts and bolts details that absolutely just enrich this thing that I've loved for 45 years now. And it's told through personal tales, like what happens to clones when they're not needed anymore. Those double episodes weeks back when they're talking about the clone trooper, whatever act, how do we transition them? And we got it in Kenobi with the clone panhandling, that like we get all these different versions of what does that look like? And to me, that's very compelling storytelling. Not to mention I'm a sucker for the family dynamic, like you said, Tech and Omega, like, let's go, keep, putting them together, keep giving them moments, Wrecker's ready to live on Pabu for the rest of his days and, be their big hunky island, lift up heavy things guy. He's ready for it. But I agree with you, Bryan. I think it is really well executed storytelling. It continues to be beautiful. The animation in this show is top notch. Like it has gotten better and better and better as it goes along. And that also is something that just draws me in. I will say I only watched that episode the one time right after Mando early in the morning before I went back to sleep. So I may not have remembered as many of the, conversations and details, but, I think it's another solid one. I think this next week is a double episode week. So it may get heavy coming up this next week. But
wrap it up.
Yeah, it continues to be fantastic.
I'm so excited for. Oh, sorry. Yeah,
no.
I'm so excited for all this clone stuff. Like, I really hope this is the long game for the next decade or so of Star Wars. I love all the political stuff. We've done it. We're still dealing with the repercussions of all that, but I think when Star Wars came out, politics and war were on the forefront of popular culture and the zeitgeist of what everyone was talking about. And I think now, I think cloning is so smart because right now we're in this place of how far can technology go? How far should technology go between AI, between cloning food, and
Yeah.
like, can we have cloned steak and things like that? Like, these are the things that our society is talking about. These are the things that are like being discussed on the kitchen table. These are the things that different generations have different viewpoints on that are all converging together. And I'm excited that Star Wars is exploring that in a lot of ways, because I think we'll get to it, I'm sure. But you know, I for me, Star Wars is a legacy, and I really hope that it's maintained as that and not a let's have 50 million shows at the same time and we always have to have something new on Star Wars. I'm really, spoiler alert, really nervous about that, because I don't think Star Wars needs to be like everything else, and we can wait a year in between episode or between seasons, or we can wait 3-4 years between a movie. And I love it when Star Wars begs us to interact with it and play in those worlds, and you need time to process that stuff. And right now it's been really hard to process Star Wars in the way that will keep it a legacy, if
Absolutely.
that makes sense.
I think that's a great point, and I love, we've gotten more news this week. Last week it was the exit of Damon Lindelof. The writer at the beginning of this week, I can't think of his name now, that was potentially going to come in to replace him.
Stephen Knight.
Yeah, Stephen Knight. But then also, like, in the last 24 hours or so, there's been another, news something dropped that supposedly, maybe, this is all speculation, but maybe there's going to be 3 movies announced at Celebration. And of course, I love that the image that went along with that story was the picture of Rian Johnson drinking out of a cup, because there's nothing I want more than an actual Rian Johnson Star Wars trilogy. Let that man cook. Like, I'm ready to eat whatever he puts on the table. But I'm with you on your point. Like, I love the TV, to me, has allowed us to go, we're still getting some stuff, but we're not getting rid of movie. It's kind of the appetizer that gets us to those movies. And if they connect along the way, then it's a great way to go. Like, I love that we're getting fed and we're getting fed different things. Like, we've got New Visions coming up soon. I'm really excited about that. Skeleton Crew has me utterly intrigued. Like, what is that going to be? And it's in this Mandoverse timeline. So, like, there's going to be some connecting points there. Of course, I'm dying for Ahsoka. That's something that, has a lot of deep meaning and hopefully expectation that I'm trying to my best to temper. But what we're getting in this current, I guess, the Disney Plus streaming era, I'm thankful that we get that. This feels like my version of the books when I was waiting for new movies to come out in the 90s. These streaming shows we're getting are the old EU for me. Like, I'm getting new stuff and I get to consume it. And if I find one I don't like, I didn't really, Grogu and Dust Bunnies just kind of went. Tales of the Jedi, fine. It was neat. I watched it one time. I haven't watched it again. I'm not mad about it. There's no part of me that's like, I can't believe they didn't do it the way I wanted it to. I went, awesome, more Star Wars. And then I go, hey, let's watch this thing. And that's why I feel where we are. So I'm with you on, the movie part, and I'm happy to wait, because what do I have to complain about while I wait? All these other things that I get to watch. I mean, come on.
Yep.
If I can go back to the clones for a second.
Yeah.
I remember in the EU, when they explained what happened to the clones, it was said they trained the stormtroopers that were coming up, or went on some kind of a vacation planet or something like that, and lived out the rest of the day, since they age rapidly. And that was it. That was the explanation. That was it. What they're doing now, and I hate to be like, the EU versus blah 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 blah, but I'm not a huge EU person anyway. But but what they're doing now is so intricate. It is so heavy. It's so powerful. And it's so, like, relatable. In a way, it's very relatable. Like that one officer, and I'm glad Crosshair shot his ass. But it was when he called clones used equipment.
Yes,
that hurt me on an ancestral level, if you know what I'm talking about. Just hearing, and I was just like,
I bet.
I'm like, please, somebody shoot him. Somebody shoot him before this episode's over.
No
I'm
doubt.
so glad. Yeah.
No doubt. That's huge. And I didn't think about that when that came up, but you're 100% right. I do like this comment real quick, talking about shows. Apparently the Daniels are going to direct an episode of, is it Acolyte? Or no, Skeleton Crew.
Yeah.
Skeleton Crew. So they just won, all the Oscars for Everything All at Once, All the Time, Everywhere, Every Day, whatever it's called.
Every episode.
Every episode.
Every TV
one
show,
of those
every
guys,
movie.
one of those two guys is from Alabama, and the editor of that movie is also from Alabama and won an Oscar. So
Nice.
props to them. But so we're continuing to get more of that good stuff. I want to do this. I want to take a caller, and then we're probably going to take a break, and then we will get to our next caller after that, because we haven't gotten into Mando yet. But I'm going to grab this caller. We're going to see what their thoughts on Bad Batch are, and then we will go from there. So let's get him in here.
And who might you be?
The man, the myth, the legend, the host of Honest to Claude himself, Eric is in the house. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing fine. Kyle Ripken Jr.
That's right.
Star Wars.
Kyle Ripken Jr. of Force Connect, trying to hit that record without missing a week. We've been talking Bad Batch off the top, so that's what I'm going to throw at you for your topic tonight. What hit for you with Bad Batch this week? Where are we?
What hit for me is that it now seems like, not just thematically, but that the A plot and the B plot were actually together. They actually are weaving in and out of each other. It doesn't seem like, Crosshair is doing something over here and the Bad Batch is way over here.
Mm-hmm.
Like it truly felt like, even though it's not a happy reunion, I don't expect Crosshair is going to be, hanging out with the fellas and the kid, like, back in, like a season ago. But I just was taking notice. I'm like, I'm really liking the way they're cutting back and forth. And I really do enjoy, seeing Echo again and him getting the clones out who have been captured. That's probably my favorite part of the episode. Like I just like the initiative, and like you see like how rough it is for them.
Yeah.
And I would be doing a disservice, especially with Bryan on. Was it this week that we get Hot Hauser back in the house?
What's so disappointing for me specifically, because I really do feel that they put Hauser in there specifically for me and me alone, and I'm fine with that.
And Hauser's hair has grown out a little bit. His beard's looking good. I'm going to be honest. I looked at that and went, "That's another cosplay that I could maybe get away with."
You know what, Nick? We're friends.
I mean,
I don't need to look at you like that. That will cross a line that I'm not willing to really walk across. I mean,
I'll stick with old Obi-Wan. I'm fine with that.
But let me tell you, this episode was so good. I didn't even focus on Hauser.
Yep.
And Hauser has been my obsession for a good solid year.
Well, and in fairness, Hauser looks like Tom, so let's not get too carried away.
Yeah, he does.
That first appearance of Hauser for sure.
But,
what else you got, Eric?
I reckon it's good to talk about this past episode of Mandalorian. Like, obviously, you really can't discuss this episode without talking about Ahmed Best. And like, I don't like when people say that he got redemption. To me, I thought he's starting to get more justice in the fandom.
Sure. 100%.
People are finally starting to respect him as an actor, because whether or not you like Jar Jar, fine, but when you like look at the behind the scenes and you see like all the things he's doing, and
that man walked around in the desert with a rubber puppet on top of his head for
like,
months at a time. What are we talking about?
Insane. I'm like, this man is the true talent, and we can see it more when we see like actual face moving and like all these little moments. Like, even though his section isn't like a full length of an episode, like everything is very purposeful, and you can like, he deserves more flowers from the fandom. And the way that people treated him to the point where he contemplated suicide is disgraceful, and it shows that the toxic side of the Star Wars minutia hasn't learned anything, because we have John Boyega and Daisy Ridley and Kelly Mary Tran all get off of social media because they can't stand being harassed just for being in a movie. Like yes, on one hand it's goofy and it's a movie, but at the same time, like, they're artists and they're like putting in their all. Like, no one that's getting these high cast roles is just like, oh, I'm just gonna get a paycheck. Like, it's way more than that. Like,
no
this
doubt.
is a phenomenon that isn't like no other. Like, it has touched practically every person on the planet that has watched film.
100%. And I will recommend to everybody, and I'm going to get you out of here on this, Eric. I'll recommend to everybody, if you haven't had a chance to see it, StarWars.com did an article, they did an interview with Ahmed talking about this process coming back. And there's so many great details in there. Even the stuff like the ornate, the sewing on his clothing is tribal. There's Afrofuturism. Like, there's so much cool stuff. And like they said, like, he got to have input. It wasn't, hey, we brought you back because it'll make people happy. Like, he got to have input on the character, which he got to be a part of with Jedi Temple Challenge. And it shows that I love that Lucasfilm pays attention to the people that they're working with. It is a family. It is, hey, you're important in this process, not just the person we're going to put in there because it's going to get clicks. There he is right there. Eric, we've got other callers hanging out in the background. It's always good to see you, my friend.
I will say that I'm finally going to have a second episode of Honest to Claude, and my co-host is going to be Bryan Fennessy.
Oh, look at that.
Nice.
Honest to Claude. If you're not checking it out, go to YouTube, look up Honest to Claude.
Very different Bryan.
Yep, another
but
Bryan.
A better one.
Spelled incorrectly.
But a better one.
I got you.
A better one.
I got you.
Make sure to play him Ding Ding Goes the Trolley. He'll know what that means.
There you go. That's right. Eric, it's always good to see you, my friend. See you again soon. Later. I always love hearing from Eric. I love seeing what he's doing with this podcast, Honest to Claude. If you haven't seen the first episode, it's Eric and his dad talking Star Wars, talking Mando, talking Bad Batch, all that good stuff. Go check it out. You can search it up on YouTube. We are having a lot of fun. We've got more guests hanging out in the background. We haven't even dug into Mando yet. We're going to do that next. We are going to take another quick break. I'm actually going to play the same break video, which is not correct because it says Bryan is our guest next week, and it's the video from last week. But in fairness, I was in the woods all week, and Pete is being a rock star playing in a band tonight. So maybe I
don't have access to the thing, so I can't make any changes.
And we don't let Chris play with things, so just we're a mess around here. But we're going to be right back in about 60 seconds, and we want to hear from you. So stay tuned and join us when we get back. We are back with Force Connect. Chris is still working his way through the peanut butter whiskey, but he's sticking with it, and I'm proud of him.
It's really good.
It's a Friday night, and we are talking Star Wars. We have had a bunch of new stuff this week. We have kind of covered Bad Batch for the most part. We're going to transition. We're going to jump into Mandalorian, and I'm going to put the spotlight on Bryan for a minute because Bryan posted a thread a couple days ago. I also read it in the woods. This is my theme this week. If Nick talks about camping, drink is our drinking game, and everybody's dead already. So whatever.
Yeah, y'all, I'm sorry. I have 2 drinks sitting here in front of me, so Lord knows where maybe by the end of this
That's okay. Bryan had a thread up that caught my attention early, and Bryan's been scheduled to be a guest with us for several weeks now. So it wasn't anything new or connected or whatever, but you had a thread up talking about kind of where you feel at this point with The Mandalorian, where the story is going. And I want to kind of put the spotlight on that for a couple minutes because I know I have some thoughts. I know Chris has some thoughts. And as we say on this show, like, we're allowed to disagree, and we disagree because we like each other and we can do it respectfully. So I'm giving the floor to you. And then I know we've got a couple callers on deck and we're going to see what they think as well.
Yes. First, thank you again. 2 of my favorite people ever. Yeah, honestly, like, those that know me or know Pink Milk know that The Mandalorian is like my favorite Star Wars ever. I love Star Wars. I believe in where Mando's going to go, but hello, Scotty. But Mando, I'm not gonna lie, it's been really tough for me so far this year. I feel like it's floundering. I don't feel that it is nearly as good as it has been. I feel like Grogu is like, the kid's cuter and more adorable than ever, and I don't know how after the song every single shot makes you feel like that little melted emoji out of adorableness, but that's there. But like, that's all he is almost this year. Is like, we had a nice little moment of him like levitating and playing with the crabs, and I like there's a little more connection to like to the living force and all that with other beings outside the Purgles and the connection to Ezra and all that. I'm here for it all. But I feel like we're retreading a lot of things. I do not feel this is the Din that we left at in the Book of Boba Fett. And I don't think if we were to assume, which I think we're meant to assume, that he's regressing because he's lost, he doesn't know what to do, and so he's going back to what he always knows. I don't think the writing is doing a very good job of really putting us there. I think we have to assume a lot, and it's really frustrating. I think we did not like this show. The majority of people, I feel safe to say that we did not love this show because I love you, Hope. The moderator of all moderators, even when she's
exactly.
not moderating,
even when she's not moderating.
I think people fell in love with the show for a father and son dynamic, and that dynamic has like been put on the back burner to give those people look at these badass Mandalorians that some people want. And as a person who has lived with and is living currently with the Bad Batch and working very hard to continue down this road of we're not going to make a mega trans, after watching people like Finn and Poe, that there was clearly a huge queer relationship vibe going on there, that they inserted love interest for both those characters because people that are that basic and homophobic think that if you now give a male a female identifying partner, therefore they can no longer be queer or gay, which is just ludicrous, and it didn't really stop any of those things. But I feel like Bo-Katan, now we've got this whole thing, or are they, aren't they? Look, she's like a mother now. And The Mandalorian had such queer overtones to that show from the minute it started. And it only amplified with Din Cobb once we met Cobb Vanth and all the things going there. And yes, it's playful and fun, but honestly, if you look at the text, there's a lot of indication that there's something more there than just fanboys and fangirls wanting this to make this fake ship. Sure. And Din Cobb really took off. It's a very popular thing, just like Storm Pilot was. And now we're taking Bo-Katan, and I don't have enough trust in Lucasfilm or Star Wars to let that play out, or to even let it maybe kind of exist. And I'm very worried that Bo-Katan is there just to say, nope, he's definitely not gay. He's definitely not. We're going to have a king and a queen of Mandalore, just like it should be. And look, they're going to have their child together, and we can have this happy family unit. which is concerning. And I feel like it really hit me this last episode being the halfway point, and we still don't know really where we're going. And yes, we can be upset with where we're at, and I've heard all the arguments of this is character development, yada. Well, you still need to have a story that feels like it's progressing somewhere. And the show to me feels like a dead fish flopping on the beaches wherever the Mandos are hiding. And we're just like slowly watching this thing, try to figure out how it's going to get back to water. Granted, we had 2 amazing seasons. We had an amazing arc in the Book of Boba Fett. I believe in this show. I love this show. I don't hate it. I'm not over here as like some toxic, it's over, it's done. But I'm really concerned. And I don't know I hope if this season continues to be flat, which I hope it doesn't. I hope we end really well, and I hope I have singing a completely different tune next week. That like they'll pull it together and do something better for season 3. And I also think the show is following Andor, which I know Andor wasn't for everybody. I completely understand that they are 2 very different tones. But I feel Andor raised the bar for what really quality Star Wars writing can look like and how to teach complex character arcs and character developments while also maintaining the story going forward. And this show's just not as successful, and it's really disappointing for me personally, because it's my favorite Star Wars.
Yeah, and that's honest. The key to a lot of what it is it's personal. It's your story is personal to you. And, the way I encounter life or Mando or trees or whatever, like everybody has a personal aspect and connection to all the things we do. And I love that you're able to share that. I'm able to hear that. And I know that I feel differently and Chris feels differently. And I'm going to throw the spotlight at Chris here in just a second. But the reality is like, there's so much there. And like what are we not mining? What are we not drilling down on? What are we not being able to flesh out in a lot of different ways in a lot of different areas? Chris, I want to go to you because I know we texted earlier this week, and I know you've got some thoughts, and I want to hear from you and put the ball in your court.
Sure. Where they're at right now in Mando for me is what I've been waiting for, and to me, it's delivering tenfold. For me, when Favreau first started talking about the show, it was like lone gunslinger, Western style, but like mixed with Game of Thrones because they're going to like get into the Mandalorian mythology and everything. He said that before the series started, so that's what I was waiting for, and then it turned into Lone Wolf and Cub for two seasons,
right?
And I'm not complaining at all. I love that, but I was like, well, where's this Game of Thronesy, Mandalorian heavy,
the more
Mandalorian lore
part.
heavy stuff coming out, and we're getting that now. And for me, I'm loving seeing where it's going. Seeing how it's connecting to the sequel trilogy, how it's enriching those and really fleshing out this huge 30-year gap between 6 and 7. So yeah, for me, it's been a blast. I see where you're coming from, Bryan. Absolutely. But I'm enjoying this so much. For me, it's been like the best, like the best. No pun intended with Ahmed coming in, but yeah.
That's great. I just I love all that stuff too. Like honestly, like Clone Wars is, for me, I've said this for so long. I believe it with every fiber of my being, but Clone Wars is now the foundation of Star Wars. Like even in post, like the original, the OT now sits on the foundation that was laid down by the Clone Wars. And I think it's beautiful. I love it. It is, I mean, I love all of Star Wars, but like, I really think at the end of the day, I don't think anything will ever be better than Clone Wars. And yes, there was stuff in there that was not great. I just don't, for me, I don't find, I hope to be proved wrong, but I don't know how it could possibly be topped. But, I like the prequels, and I never thought the OT could be topped, but there we go. So it happens. But
absolutely.
I love the idea of exploring who Mandalorians are, who they can be, all of that. But I feel like this is where, for me, the writing isn't working, because I don't feel like you need to sideline the father and son journey that this show started in order to do that. Like the rise of the, Revenge of the Sith is a really, really, really complicated story, and there's so much going on. And yes, I would have loved all those scenes with Padme and Mon Mothma and Bail Organa and setting up the rebellion. I would have loved that. I'm hoping that we get those re-edited into a show somewhere. Give it to me in season or season 2. Like, I want that story, but it was such a smart move from a storytelling purpose to take that out of it, because it really was distracting to Anakin's story. And so we still got those flavors, but we got it through Anakin Skywalker. And I think I wish that we were getting some of this stuff, but through Din and Grogu, and we didn't need to create in a show that was so many of us loved, because it was small and it wasn't the galactic thing that Star Wars has been in the past. And that's what was new and what was exciting about it, because it still felt Star Wars, but it was a smaller focused story. And I don't think we needed Bo-Katan in the way that they're using her. I mean, I was like preaching I love Bo-Katan. I can't wait to hate her some more. That's my favorite Bo-Katan. But I feel like she's overshadowing these other two characters. And that's great for Bo-Katan. That's amazing. This is that shouldn't be the way this show is structured, in my opinion. And that's what's disappointing. That to me is where maybe you spin it off into other things. We explore other things and take more time telling a bigger story.
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like, and that's where I'm worried about the losing of a legacy. This is to me where it feels like television, where it feels like it's less permanent. And yes, we all know that Star Wars is built on pulp that was meant to be filler, but that's not what Star Wars is. It has those things. I just worry that we're going to forget about some of these things because they're telling too much too quickly all of the sudden. If that's like, for me, that's what makes me nervous. It might even be less the episodes in the season itself. It's that, oh my God, we've had 2 years to really slowly build here. Now we're just almost like, it feels like we've regressed and we're telling this whole new story. And I'm like, oh my God, I don't need all of this right now.
Like Hope said in the comments about, like, I think they had to scrap the whole Rangers of the New Republic thing because of that. And so they had to do something to kind of get things on track and maybe set that up for a later date or whatever. So things to feel like they were like boom. Like, I figured like he wasn't going to get the Mandalore until the middle of the season. They were like, yeah, we're here. I'm like,
boom, here we are. Okay. Well, and you've also got 8 to work with, so you've got a short runway. I'll throw 2 things in here, and then we've got a bunch of callers on deck, so I definitely want to get to them. One thing, and this is very kind of surface and peripheral, I've just a differing perspective to what you said, Bryan. Feeling like they've gotten away from the Din and Grogu story, the father-son, the that kind of familial nature. I almost read it in a different light. I read it as, like, I have 3 daughters. I have 4 daughters, actually. 3 of my 4 daughters were born premature. 2 of them super premature, 27 months. The third one that was born premature was born at 6 or 7 weeks early, so not nearly as dramatic. But I had these kids, like, we went through a lot in their early stages of life. And we reached a point where all of a sudden we were just like doing normal life. And I almost read it as Din and Grogu went through a bunch of early crap where I gave him up. I went back and got him. Then this guy got him. And then the Desert Jawa bad guy, like, they went through so many ups and downs and all that thing. I almost view it as right now they're living in that, we get to be normal time for a minute. Now, whether your definition of what, this Mandalorian covert is a cult, or that's another conversation. But I almost view it as like they get to be in normal time for a minute. They get to slow down, and sometimes normal time is not as exciting as we're on an adventure together and every episode is me going to rescue the kid again. Sometimes it's like, we ate cereal, we went and practiced shooting paintballs at each other, and we came home and we ate supper. Like, I almost feel like they're in a little bit of like an existence mode that they haven't always gotten to have, which was kind of teased in the first season when they met the woman and they were on the planet with that I can't forget the name of the episode, but
Sanctuary.
It was that whole Sanctuary. If they get the chance to settle down, like for the moment, they've gotten to settle down. He said in the episode
Mhm.
last week, "Come with me, I know where to go." Like, I view it as they get a moment to take a time out. They get a moment to just be with who he knows to be his people. Grogu is a kid in whatever form he's a kid. Like, there's normal life sometimes is boring, and sometimes normal
Yep.
life is not. You know, like they're living into it in a different way, and that may not. I don't think that's where the story is necessarily pointing, but that's how I read it, because we're building obviously towards other things, other events, other that kind of stuff. Tied to that, I will throw in what I love about this is Pete talks all the time about the Filoni Favreau, especially Filoni, is so good at naming Star Wars things that end up not being what they're about. Rebels was not about the Rebels. Rebels was a Jedi story.
Yep.
You know, we having these shows. I love that this show that's called The Mandalorian at this point could be about like 6 different people. It could be about Bo. It could be about Din. It could be about Grogu the Destroyer. It could be about the cult. Like, it goes, it's giving us the ability, which art does, to go, who is the Mandalorian exactly? And they've teased those little threads, the prophecy when they go, you know, to the living waters and read the thing about the mythosaur, the stuff, the video I saw about the Shriek Hawk that was just the other day, and like how that, you know, connects to the Death Watch symbol and, you know, these other beastly, like, they're building something that, like, I don't know who the Mandalorian is at this point. I really don't. And that's what, you know, is also very compelling to me from a storytelling aspect. What story are we telling? I don't really know. We know where it started, but I'm not the one that knows where it's going.
I get some of that. I think part of, you know, honestly, this is like, I think Bad Batch is telling something similar with Pabu right now. And that, honestly, it was just done better. Like, that's what's also making some of this hard. It was a simple line, like, even, you know, like a minute with Hunter really questioning, maybe this really is where they need to be. This is like Hunter, you know, is accepting that he's a father now. Who he was can't exist along with being a father.
Right.
And I just, like, Din already left. He left. To me, when he took his helmet off and said goodbye to his son, he left it.
Yeah.
He left.
Yep.
And he said, right now, this is more important to me. That show was not leading towards Luke Skywalker. It was leading towards Din Djarin realizing that he was his father. And then we were left going, oh my God, he just left him. And then the little mini arc that we had in Book of Boba Fett was Grogu realizing, I'm not a Jedi, I'm Din's son. And it was like, we reunited this family unit. And now that has been pushed aside for me to have. I don't mind that Din Djarin went back. I mean, it stinks that, you know, Din Djarin is back to his himbo self of not, which does feel like a regression in a way of him, like,
yes,
this family just kicked me out for who I am. I came out as someone who says, you know what, I don't want to live this way anymore.
Yeah.
I am queer and not necessarily gay, if that's what you want to do, but I am different. I'm going to remove my helmet. I no longer follow these exact rules that you've put before me because I love my son and this is where I want to go. And that whole thing. So I don't mind necessarily him going back.
Right.
Because I understand as a queer person who's gone back to a family that is very, like, unhealthy for that. Like, it happens sometimes because they're still your family. And I understand. And that could be a really wonderful story of saying, I don't know, this is the only place I know to go to right now. They're going to tell you to put, you know, something like, but we're not getting any of that. It's just like, oh, here they are again. And it's like, let's just pretend like nothing happened. And I took my bath and it was so easy for me to take a bath, but there's no way taking that bath to come back would have been easy because he just sacrificed everything. And maybe it was a few years in between, which a lot of things can happen. We don't know how long he was gone. I'm not going to hop on the train if we need to know because Star Wars never tells us how long we're anywhere. It's either before, after, or now.
Right.
And that's great. I love it.
Right.
But, like, they're not really addressing that. They haven't. And they have had, after half a season, time to explore why Din went back. What's he doing? And they haven't. You could take care of that in like 2 lines. You could take care of it so easily.
Sure.
But they're just not where we as an audience are just like, oh, he's back now. And it's like we're supposed to forget everything that he sacrificed. And to me, it's cheapening that moment at the end by just, I'm back now. for me.
Yeah.
And that's what's really just such a bummer, because I felt that the show, as fast and more intense and adventure of the week and fun it was, there was so much going on underneath everything, and that was the beautiful stuff in the show. And now we're like, I guess we'll get to it in the back half of the season. I don't know.
That your explanation makes so much sense, and it's like it shows that there's a whole spectrum of views on how to see these shows and these stories. That, and so I mean, like that just like opened my eyes. I didn't even think of it in that way, And that's yeah.
And I love everything you're loving from it. Both those things can exist, and that to me is like, what's going on there that this isn't happening? Because this show gave us all of those things before. I mean, honestly, at the end of season 1, when that Darksaber came out, my mind was blown, because I'm like, oh, this show just got so damn complicated.
Yep.
You knew Bo-Katan was coming back. You knew all the man. You knew it was all coming back, and you're begging for it. You're like, yes, I'm living for this. Yeah. It was so good. There was so much layered nuance in that one shot with Grogu and a t-shirt. You want to wear a mesh shirt? Because of course the gay dad made him a mesh shirt, because that's what they're going to do. Or do you want a lightsaber? There was so much complexity in that alone. It was, and it's just really hard. It stinks for me.
It's clear that we all have opinions. It's clear that we all have thoughts, but we have some dedicated callers hanging out in the background, and I want to run them through here. We may have to do a little bit of speed round, but that's okay, because we've got pros on deck. So I'm going to run a video, and I'm going to get our next caller in here, and we're going to hear what they have to say. Also making his dedicated return, our good friend, Angry Tasty Cakes, in the house. Good evening, sir.
Hello. My mic was not muted this time.
Nope, not this time. You're good.
Yeah.
How are you?
I'm fine. Yeah, I'm fine. What a week.
What a week. Exactly.
Yeah.
What you got for us?
Well, first, okay, listen, we got to talk royalties on that shirt. First of all, okay,
it was your idea, straight up.
And the other thing too is I wanted to touch on the Bad Batch first. I know I'm going to go really quick. I got to channel my Charlie Day, my inner Charlie Day right now. But did you all notice Cody? He was in Tantus.
Mm-hmm.
He was So if you watch the beginning of the episode when they mention that a pretty well-known clone went AWOL.
Yes.
Crosshair's being escorted down the hallway in that first torture sequence, and apparently Cody is the one that was sitting on the floor in the cell that Crosshair dwelled on when he was originally being walked down that hallway.
No.
Yeah, that's the speculation for it right now.
Okay, so it's not. It can't. It can't be true. It's just speculation.
No, I'm going to claim profit on this one.
Oh, damn it! Come on.
Yeah. So apparently that's like the common speculation, because I mean, think about it. If a clone goes AWOL, they're not going to go looking for him. They're going to think, oh, he's whatever, so it's the perfect cover.
Yep. Son of a...
Scoop him up.
Oh, man.
I haven't confirmed that he's dead.
Show's over.
Yeah, they haven't confirmed he's dead. They haven't confirmed he's alive either, but the common speculation right now is that that's Cody sitting in the cell. Because he goes AWOL right after he talks to Crosshair.
Could we at least have a reunion before it's all said and done with him and Rex? Can we?
And apparently, I'm gonna claim another premonition here. Okay, premonition here. I think we're gonna see Delta Squad. I truly think we're gonna see Delta Squad going after the Bad Batch.
We're definitely going to see A Squad. I'm telling you that right now.
Which one, Chris?
Oh,
the Scar Squadron. Yeah.
Task Force 99 is coming.
But yeah, I think we're going to see Delta Squad going after him, because again, it's like the Purgle thing in Mando. Why would they put Scorch in here just for fan service when half the people don't even know who he is? But those who do, they're like, But anyway, Mandalorian. Yeah, okay. Inner Charlie Day is now gone. All right, so
that's right.
Mandalorian. I halfway agree with Bryan. I think to an extent that the writing is very slow. And at this point, these last 4 episodes, they need to develop this sense of urgency. They need to do something. I love Mando. I think it's my favorite Star Wars show. I think it's my favorite, but even I'm just like, come on. At this point, like something's got to give. And I got to be honest, like seeing Ahmed make his appearance, I was like, that is the best part about this season so far.
Yeah.
And I love the Mythosaur.
Yeah.
Okay, like I thought that was the coolest thing ever. And when the greatest moment has nothing to do with the main character, well, I shouldn't
It's in a
say
flashback,
that, but like,
yeah,
it's like maybe there's something wrong. And I'm with Hope. She mentioned in the chat earlier that with the firing of She Who Must Not Be Named, it became they had to scrap. I think she's right. Like they had to scrap everything, and that really threw the season. I have a feeling that they had everything set up the way they needed it, and then they fired her, and then suddenly it was just like, oh damn it.
Well, and she has another great point that she throws in here. Tinfoil hat theory number 2. Filoni was away filming a lot of Ahsoka, so is that also a potential reason why this season feels different? And that's the thing that
different.
Living in the world we live in now, and kind of like Bryan talked about early on, whether we're waiting for movies, whether we're getting too much at one time, there's a lot of real world stuff that ultimately ends up having an impact on the storytelling, whether the story was written 2 years ago, the way it's directed, the way it's produced, like who's there, who's not there, just little decisions that end up having a bigger, kind of trickle down, are a part of all of it. So
I think a lot of the creative just had to be changed. It had to be.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's such an unfortunate thing. Because, like, I have a feeling they had this whole thing set up from start to finish, like Marvel-esque.
Well, and they've told us as much. We had that article that came out early on that said, we know where we're going. We don't have an end because we can come back to it later if we want, but we know where we are right now. But that doesn't mean that stuff's not going to change. As Ahsoka develops, as they add skeleton crew, as they decide, we need a, Katie O'Brien show, which I'm fully here for. Like, let's, get more of Elia Kane. Wherever we're going.
Don't get me started.
I think she's going to be in Skeleton Crew.
I have such a crush on Katie O'Brien, and I know, but I'm just saying I have a serious crush on her.
Can I just tell you, because you have a crush on her, she is so amazing and so lovely. We had her on the show early on, and we had a hot minute. I'm like, no one's going to remember having this interview. They're busy. They do cool things, and we're some little podcast, right? And she, like a year later, sent me a DM saying, because I had a conversation with my kids wanted to do karate, but then they were freaking out because they were afraid to break a board. And like a year later, she sent me a video of her breaking a board, said, please play this for your son. I'm not sure if you got the courage to do karate.
Awesome. Amazing.
You remember this?
Awesome.
It was awesome. I was like, oh God, she's lovely. Love her.
Yeah. So real world stuff is going to affect our story stuff, and there's no doubt about that.
And I feel like they're leaning also kind of heavily towards Kurosawa in a lot of ways now, in their concept and their theming. Because like when you think of the Mandalorian, what does that mean? Like, is it Bo? Is it Din? Is it the armor? Is it all the tribes coming together? Is it like Kurosawa-esque in the way of the Mandalorian? Like it's I feel like, again, Filoni is playing 4D chess and we're just here along for the ride. Like, we're finding ourselves like Star Wars is the earth and we're just living on it. Like, we can pretend all day, every day to truly understand it, but we don't, and it's we're in just a weird spot. So to an extent, I agree that the writing is slow, but at the same time, I feel like it's also deliberate. And it's not just from the creative angle of, having to hire, fire, throw under a bus, not throw under a bus, rescue. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like there's just so much more at play that we just not are aware of. Because, I mean, we're not in those conference rooms. As much as I would love to be a fly on the wall during some of these, like, conceptualization stages, I'm like, we're not there. But I feel like half of it's deliberate and the other half is just like, all right, something's got to give here. Like, because I'm getting impatient. And I'm a pretty patient person when it comes to Star Wars. But I'm getting impatient now to be like, all right, come on, do something. Mythosaur, breathe fire, do something,
Yeah.
So
I'm in a
weird
beast, another adventure. It's kind of that in between. And
or did she even see it? Because I mean, Armor is like, she's like, well, you may have been tripping.
The the fumes in the mine got to you. It's like welding in a closed door. Yeah, the radio starts speaking in tongues. That's when you have to open a window. You sure you're all right?
Exactly.
But it's just a weird spot I find myself in with Star Wars. Like I love it. I will love Star Wars, but I don't have to love everything that comes with it.
100%.
And right now I'm struggling.
And guess what? We can say that, and we don't have to like hate each other, and we don't have to be a-holes. And that's wild, isn't it? That's what we're all doing here. We've got 4 different opinions on this screen, and that's okay.
Yep. I can do that with all my alt accounts.
That's right. See, you got plenty of other ways to shade people.
Yeah.
Tasty, I'm going to send you on your way. Thank you so much for calling in. It's always
Tasty,
good to see you.
Real quick, I just want to say thank you. I've had some lovely little interactions with you the last few days, so I appreciate it.
Oh, yeah. No, I saw what you were going through on Twitter, and I was like, oh, damn it. Can't we all just be nice for once? And I was like, all right, I better make sure.
No, thank you. I appreciate it.
I had to do the same with Wikipedia, so it's a wild time on Twitter. It's lawless. Confidence needs to be the marshal.
The literal Wild West out there. That's right. We need some more marshals out there.
Yeah.
Well, it's always good to see you, my friend. We're going to send you on your way. We've got a couple more callers that we want to get to, but we love you, and hopefully we'll see you again next week.
Oh, I'll be back for those royalties. Don't worry.
That's right. Awesome. See you, buddy.
Absolutely.
All right, we're going to keep the good times rolling. We're not going to waste any more time. I probably should take a break. We'll do that in a minute. Got another caller on deck. Here we go.
Go for Papa Palpatine.
You have a collect call from
Darth Vader.
I gotta take this. Hold on.
The one, the only, the man who lives in the same town we do, Jeff Quaglio.
Yes, we do.
Jeff, what's up, my friend?
I want that intro to play anytime I enter a room. Is that too much to ask? I mean, seriously.
It's my favorite one, and I have to resist the urge not to use that one for every single caller because it feels so right. But we have so many good intros for callers.
So hello, Bryan. This is the first time we've had a chance to interact in person. I just wanted to tell you that your children's lives are better for having you guys in them, and your lives are better for having them in yours. So cheers to you.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Fuck everybody out there that has a problem with that. So cheers to you, my friend. I'm very honored to be on here with you.
Thank you. That means a lot. Thank you. And my husband and I are the lucky ones. We say it every day. We're the lucky ones. So thank you.
So a little unpack on Phantom Menace on
that's been
on
done
Mandalorian. So I'm with you, Bryan, to an extent. This season has been underwhelming to me. There's been some cool stuff in there, but the deep dive my level of deep dive doesn't get to some stuff. Like the mythosaur I didn't know what that was. Didn't mean anything to me. I knew that the symbol of the Mandalorian symbol, I just thought it was a cool symbol, but see, I didn't know what that was. So seeing that in the waters didn't. My buddy Chad jumps off the couch. He's doing backflips, and I'm like, what did I miss? What did I miss? So, but the Ahmad Best part to me was so cool to me because my Phantom Menace quick backstory is when that movie came out in 1999, in May of 1999, I had just moved out of my parents' house. I was on my own. I had a job. I had money before I had kids. Money was, if you have kids, you don't know what that is anymore. But I was on my own for the first time. I had my own place. I could do whatever I wanted. It was like a whole new phase of life. One of my good buddies managed the Windsong. You remember Windsong, Nick?
Oh, we literally talked about it tonight because my girls watched Blair Witch with their mother last night while I was gone, and I saw Blair Witch at the Windsong way back in the day. So
so the Windsong here was the OG theater style seating. I mean, and Phantom Menace hit it. My good buddy was the manager, so he just let me in to watch it as many times as I wanted. I probably watched that movie 12 times in that theater, and that movie means so much to me because it takes me, every time I watch it, it takes me to that time in my life, which was like a whole clean empty whiteboard, empty thing. And so seeing Ahmad Best in the show brought me back to that and all the crap he took, and it made me think of Jake Lloyd and what Jake Lloyd went through, where he quit the business completely. And I want Jake Lloyd back. I want us to bring Jake Lloyd back somehow, some way. That's like my wish, is that we can reconnect with Jake Lloyd through all this, because it almost ruined his life too. I mean, got him out of the business. So like I said, that's kind of where I am with Mandalorian. After ripping my heart out at the end of season 2, and he took his helmet off and they said goodbye, and I went through all that, and then they kind of erased that. They kind of brought us back in the mini arc, like you said, and then we're kind of just not. Mando kind of feels like his goofy sidekick, like, oh, who needs to rescue him again? Oh, he's trapped again. Oh, Din's trapped again. I didn't want him to become this sideshow. I don't know, but we're halfway through it, and it's there's still a lot of stuff to go, and I'm not bailing on it by any means, but just a little underwhelmed so far. That's kind of where I am. And then in terms of Bad Batch, maybe I don't know enough about what Scar Squadron is, Chris. So maybe that debunks what my thing was for this next couple episodes. But I thought that maybe.
You know what? I'll send you. Want me to send you some comics?
Yes, I'll read them if you send them.
Cool.
I'll read them
first for anyone on this show.
I'll try it. I'm not closed to anything. I've never read a Star Wars comic or nothing. Yeah.
Oh, just a real quick plug for myself. You should go ahead and read Santa Staros #1.
Yes,
that's your first comic, because Pink Milk is canon. Everybody,
Pink Milk is canon.
Pink Milk is canon. Listen, I'm still waiting for like Charles Soule or Ethan Sachs or someone to make another hyperfuel and call it Broaxium. I'm still waiting for that to happen. We didn't get nothing yet. So I have to look at characters and go, bam, that's me right there. Yeah, that's me. I just steal a character. That's me.
I can't wait to know.
Like the character from Pabu. That's me.
Yeah. That's him.
Yeah,
it's totally me.
Jeff,
you sounded familiar.
Any parting thoughts before we get you out of here tonight?
Yes, we just want to say the Bad Batch is amazing. The sound is amazing. The artistry is amazing. It's so good. I think Omega is going to give herself up to free Crosshair, and that's going to lead to some rescue of hers in season 3. That's my only prediction I've ever made for Star Wars. Probably going to be 0 for 1. But that's the only time I've ever had the balls to predict anything on Star Wars. So that's it. Bryan, it was an honor talking to you, my friend. Chris,
it's a bold move, Cotton. Let's see how it plays out for him. Jeff's a great dude. Always glad when Jeff calls in. Glad to be.
Mm-hmm.
Jeff's mom, Bryan, you don't know this, and I don't know if Chris, you remember this. Jeff's mom was my wife's 6th grade teacher way back in the day. Yeah, like the craziness of this small world. And we met when we were extras on the set of the Wonder Years a couple of years ago.
Let me just casually drop that in there. That time I was on TV.
I was directed by Fred Savage before that kind of weird, maybe potentially problematic thing came out. So whatever. Guys, we are rolling along. We are going to take a very, very quick break. And then we're going to come back. We've got another caller that's going to help us round out this show and the fun conversations we've had tonight. So let me hit this and we'll be right back.
Revenge of the Sith acting challenge. I play Obi-Wan, you play Anakin. You're the blue line.
No.
Let's go.
No.
You were the chosen one.
No, this is a FaceTime call, buddy. I think
it was said that you would destroy the Sith, not join them.
No, you definitely have the wrong number.
Bring balance to the Force, not leave it in darkness.
I'm not even sure what you're talking about, but thank you for calling. Check who you're trying to call. You got the wrong number, and don't be so upset about it. I'm sorry. You just have the wrong number. It happens. It's happened.
You were my brother, Anakin.
No, I'm not even Anakin, and I don't know who you are.
I loved you.
Oh, hey, easy. Listen, I don't feel the same way. No, don't do that. Don't do that. No, I'm so sorry. I hope you find who you're trying to call, though. Wait, where are you going?
We are back. Oh, Pete. you know, we are all out there flailing wildly on TikTok, and I have to give Pete a lot of credit for hanging in there. Daily Watto, you know, whatever it is, there's some good stuff out there. I don't know what it means, because one day things are like 1 million people watched it, and the next day they're like, no one has seen this ever. So I don't understand the internet is really what this comes down to.
And that's why TikTok should be banned. I'm kidding.
Or hashtag China. I don't know. Whatever. Exactly.
Hey, everyone, just in case you're not sure, Chris fired a second time just to make sure we all knew he fired first.
Hello.
Yep. And speaking of Chris's firing, we're going to get another caller in here, because why not? That's what we do. Let's do this.
Greetings, Exalted One.
Hello, friends.
Our steady hand, our steady friend.
Hello,
the
Bryan.
one, the only, Bryan Fennessy. 2 Bryans.
Yes.
One spelled incorrectly.
Yours.
At this point, Chris and I just need to leave and let you just battle this out and settle it once and for all.
Well,
it's like the Highlander, but for name spelling. There can only be one.
Our battle.
No, there can be many.
Yes.
What's up, my friend?
I'm
How are
up
you?
for that. Nothing. How are all you guys?
We're great, and we're always glad to see you. It has been a action-packed night, as it is every Friday, because we're getting 2 Star Wars shows at once. And I mean, at this point, honestly, we're also getting, you know, conversation points. We're getting things that we're thinking, and that's the other thing. And the big picture, big arch, you know, big whatever. I love that Star Wars gets us to think and have conversations. It gives us the chance to connect with each other. Even if we don't agree, I can text Bryan thoughts that I have in the middle of the week and go, hey, I saw your thread and it made me feel this way about this, but you feel this. Like, we're creating, it's community. That's what community is. Community is conversation. Community is understanding. Real community, not Twitter community. That's fake. That's not real. But outside of that, we have these friends. Surprise! Breaking news. Twitter, not real.
What?
But having the opportunity to, there you go. But it's giving us these opportunities to dig deeper and to expand thoughts. And because, again, thoughts that Bryan has about something that he views were not thoughts I had, but it makes me stop and go, oh crap, there's another perspective there. And I want that. I want to learn from Bryan's perspective, from Chris's perspective, from other Bryan's perspective. Like, I want to consume all the things, and I want to learn from all the people. And so the power in art is what I see is not what you see, but that doesn't mean I can't learn from that. And that's really, really special.
Yep.
I don't know how to
what
follow
you got?
that. No, I'm just kidding.
Yes, you do. You've got something.
No.
You've been sitting in on it since Wednesday.
Bryan's never short on words.
No, not at all. First off, in regards to your thread, Bryan, that I saw earlier, anyone who has any interactions with the foster care system and still would think that way to say something like that to you, they're either just naive or just so bigoted that there's no coming back.
Yeah.
But
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
As my father would say, they have their head so far up there, you know what, that they can't find their way back out.
Yep. Gross.
One thing that popped into my mind actually yesterday when our friend Jared mentioned something, how with Paz Vizsla and his son, that he mentioned that Mandalorians must have to adopt because they can't take off the helmet, so they can't, so the foundlings are the only way to grow their tribe,
right?
Which, well, I mean,
so going off of that,
take their helmets off.
So going,
I don't
off
know.
of
I've been
that,
to some weird Halloween parties, but whatever.
Yeah. No, but
see, actually, this is somewhere where we can have differences. Nick might say they're weird. I might call them a Tuesday, and I'm like, I'm here for it.
Very vanilla, very basic. I don't know what to tell you.
So, but going off of that, the whole thing with Din having to go into the living waters.
Right.
When Jared mentioned that and the living waters things finally clicked, that it is like Hope mentioned earlier in the chat, it's Judaism.
Yeah.
And like where I live, there's the next town over is a very large Hasidic Jewish community. And so I'm probably like 6 miles away from the closest mikvahs, which is it's actually defined in the Torah as a living water that you have to go and ritually bathe in so that you can are no longer an apostate.
Right.
But it wasn't until that it really kind of clicked with me, how it really, the children aren't necessarily probably started out wearing the helmets all the time, not as they have to wear it all the time. It's because they couldn't take it off because they couldn't go in the waters of Mandalore because they were on Concordia the whole time before they had to leave and then go into hiding. So they're wearing, it almost seems like they have to wear the helmets and the armor because they're sinners and they can't atone for it. And now Din is the first person who has atoned. And and obviously it's gotten warped a little bit there that they're so afraid to have to go do it again that they're just going to leave the armor on all the time. So because of that, they are not allowed to procreate because that is one of the rules why you would have to do a mikvah is after, husband and wife do the husband and wife thing, or husband and husband, or wife and wife, or whoever is their partner do the things that they do. You would have to go and take that bath before you could physically touch your partner ever again.
Wow. Oh, I like that.
So it was just one of those things that I didn't realize. The living water thing finally clicked when Jared, that it just became an earworm to me. Yeah. It was just a weird theory that I've been rolling around in my head for the last 2 days.
There's a video, and I think someone had just turned me on to this channel because they had mentioned ATG Cast and they mentioned Blue Bantha Milk, Screen Crush. I'd never watched the channel before until like last week, and and the guy Ryan Airy, I think his name is, he had a whole thing on the Children of the Watch and the real world connections and whatnot. And yes, everything you're saying, spot on.
Yeah,
like he went into that. So I would suggest checking that out if you haven't already.
I will now.
Yeah,
it's good stuff.
And that's one of the reasons why. And I know I shot first with this one earlier in the episode, but people have been calling the Children of the Watch a cult. I'm like, I don't see them as a cult. They are a religious sect, but to me, not a cult. Like a cult to me, like at least in Star Wars, the Path of the Hand from the High Republic. That's a religious group that is led by a charlatan. That to me, that is a cult. Like she just, there's ulterior motives going on, and she needs that to to elevate what she needs to do. Or MAGA, or Blue Oyster, whichever cult, but it's but that's why, I just see them, especially when you get to see them in their element, it doesn't feel there's anything nefarious going on there. They're strict in their ways, and you can come and you could join, you could leave, whatever.
Yeah.
So I mean that's one of the reasons why I don't think they're.
I don't think them so much as a cult as a ultra conservative religion. Whether it be, an ultra conservative Islamic sect, whether it be like the Hasidics that live by me, whether it be, some of those very strange Christian sects that all, live down just north of you in Arkansas or something. They go, oh, that place. I don't understand those people, but they're in every religion. They have those, the ones that go so far conservative that they're just weirdos.
Yep. Well, and there's so much there, and there's so much there to unpack, and we don't have enough time to do all of that tonight. But what I love is, as somebody who grew up in a faith and still has a personal faith, my personal faith is honestly a lot less about organized religion than it is about the higher power that I, ascribe to be somebody that I believe in, something that is, my deal. Because churches are filled with people, and people are broken, and people are full of shit. Like, that's what it comes down to. And what we're seeing right now, and I'm, again, this is it a cult? That conversation that came up, and Jared had some great points, and I think there are some other great points. What I think we're looking at, and this is just kind of my big picture pointing towards it, is as we're headed halfway through this series, I think we're still headed in a direction where this whole culture, the way, is going to change. The way is not going to be leaving these helmets on. There's a deconstruction there. That's a big thing, and certainly in modern Christianity right now. Deconstruction. These people who have gone through these problematic, overbearing, super conservative, super fundamentalistic faiths that dictated who you were without giving you choice and agency. You're growing up and going, oh, wait, I grew up in this thing, but that was because I was told that was how I was supposed to be. It didn't give me a choice. Choice is a thing. And I think where we're heading with this is the choice to be Mandalorian is going to be a choice to be, I'm me as Mandalorian. And if I want to take my helmet off, I can. And if I don't want to take my helmet off, I also don't have to, because the way is bigger than the words in a creed that were held to by ancients. And I think that's where ultimately this story is heading. Yeah. And I think, like Hope said, with Judaism and uniting tribes, like it creates a different environment. It creates a new way. The new way is not going to be what the old way is, because guess what? Stuff changes. And that's that's a reality in faiths of all kind, not just Christianity. Like life changes, the world changes. All the crap you hear about in the Bible with slavery and roles of women and all that stuff, that was X number of years ago. Guess what? We don't do that shit anymore. We don't have slaves. We don't have, all these different things, because the world changes. And so you adapt. And a living faith, a living water, a living whatever it is that gives you the power to be who you are and be redeemed. Living means it changes. Living means it doesn't stay the same as it was 3,000, 5,000, 10,000 years ago. So I think that's where this story is heading, is a change in who and a reunification of the Mandalorians. And I don't think it's Bo and Din as king and queen.
No.
I posted a couple weeks ago, work spouses at best. Classic definition of a good work spouse, like we help each other out, we got each other's back, but there's no romance here. That's not what this is.
I think that the Mandalorian leadership going forward is not going to be just someone who's got the laser sword. I think this is going to be some kind of a council or tribunal or something like that. Something so that the Mandalorians are finally united, warrior and pacifist, if that's even still a thing, but the pacifists, but I think that they have to have a new way going forward.
Oh, for sure.
If they're going to survive.
Bo's only going along and leaving the helmet on because for political
she's still
reasons.
she's still playing the game.
She just gained herself a small army. That's the only reason she's going along and assimilating with that, because because she wants them to go with her to go back and go after whoever blew up Kalevala.
Right.
So she's purely
still playing her cards close to the chest, but I also think there's
thankfully her politics have gotten her a much more beautiful wig.
But I think it was
better now.
I think it was interesting that for her, and we felt it. We felt all along. She's playing this role. She's playing the cards close to the chest. She's got her own agenda, but also in the midst of that, like the moment when she kneels down next to Grogu and goes, "It's okay. My dad was this way too. He did it because he's proud of you." Like there was a touching human moment in that. That wasn't her. That wasn't agenda based. That was her going, "No, I've been here, kid. He really does love you. He knows what you can do." And I also Hope's been on fire all night. Hope put the thing in the chat about giving Grogu permission to be himself. We know what you can do. Show him with the paintball fight, with that whole thing. Like there's agency there. That's ownership, and that is going to shift and guide that path away from. I mean, I go back to the conversation with Bill Burr in the tank when he's wearing the tank armor helmet, and
Alderaan?
He's like, Aldani, when they're on, they're doing that whole thing. He's like, "What's the deal with the helmet?" And he's like, "Why is this different than anything else? Why?" Like, real talk. Like, what are we doing here? Like, is this does the hat matter? Like, there's a lot there, and I love that those are the stories and the conversations that it allows us to have in the midst of also unpacking family and also unpacking, where does, Snoke somehow magically return 30 years down the line or whatever. It's really dense, and that's a good Rick McCallum thing. Bryan, you're muted. We lost you for a minute. You're still muted. Nope, nothing. we need an unmute. It's not on my end. He's moving. He's not frozen, but he's definitely muted. We may have lost Bryan for a minute, but nope.
I can read lips.
Go ahead.
What he's saying is, what he's saying is,
a little bit, I think.
The correct way to spell the name Bryan is with an I.
There he is. He's back.
He's back. Yeah, it's cracking.
Okay, my computer does not like restream. Let me tell you right now. I don't think Snoke knows how to swim. First of all, I think that's going to be a revelation that we learn. Am I out again?
No.
We're just. Wait, we got you.
My joke was that bad that's how bad my joke was.
I was reading the chat, to be fair, so I totally missed it.
Great host, guys. Great host, guys. Great. Thank you for making your guests feel so welcome. It's fantastic. Great.
Listen, I know I'm the worst. You're the one that's here.
I would love all this conversation. I would love nothing more than Bo-Katan to try to turn the Children of the Watch back into Death Watch, reclaim all this stuff, and fall back to those ways that she's going. Yeah. And this is what's going to force Din to because the great thing about Bo-Katan, and that character is so fascinating, is that she, the way that woman's brain is wired, she would feel that she could bring Death Watch back or whatever, right? And still also not be on Team Din and Grogu anymore, but not understand that they also can't follow them. Her relationship with Satine was so beautiful in that. I will never cross you, but I will never be with you either. And I'm looking I think that would be a really interesting thing, that maybe that pushes Din to I finally have to make a decision. What kind of father do I want to be to this kid here? Am I going to continue down Death Watch? And are we going to get another forging scene of him reliving trauma, not from before he met Death Watch, but during Death Watch? What kind of things did Death Watch make that kid do? Because we know Death Watch isn't bad, or is not good. I hope we're not going to go down and try to Death Watch doesn't need to be redeemed. We don't need to we don't need that story. They're bad. And that's some of what has been frustrating for me personally, is Children of the Watch have not really, they're not good. They've never been portrayed as good. Right. I don't want to have the conversation of a cult versus religion, whatever. That's tired and broken.
Agreed.
Twitter exhausted.
Yeah.
But they're not good, and they've never been portrayed as good. And if we need to start seeing them that way, then this is where the writing is failing for me. It's not, Din isn't questioning those things. The audience is, but no one else in the camp is. Maybe Bo-Katan is, but honestly, the four of us on screen right now understand that side of Bo. And one of the things I love in our podcast is having Tom on board, who doesn't know everything about Star Wars. He really likes Star Wars. Tom really is the casual fan who doesn't know who Bo-Katan is. He's seen a few of her episodes because they made him watch. But he's not going to get those layers of Bo-Katan because that version of Bo has not been introduced in this show. People, this is all Bo-Katan to the casual audience right now, was a lady who showed up and took her helmet off. And where we're why isn't Din taking his helmet off? 90% of the viewership of Mandalorian is why is she taking her helmet off? They're thinking she's the backwards one. And so they're not getting this layer of complexity. They're oh my God, wait, are the children, is that the way Mandalorians are? And I think that to me is where this is failing. And it feels that this is their way to be able to rewrite certain things. I hope not. I hope Dave didn't lose that. And this show hasn't let me down yet, so I'm still hopeful. But halfway through, it's making me really question things. I don't know what's going on.
That's valid.
That's fair. And it's it's that whole thing of like, I've made this argument more times than I can count. And I know you've heard it because people have been in your threads, and we've all, we've dealt with the nonsense online, and it is what it is. I'm that half full guy. I'm going, look, we're 4 episodes in. We've got 4 more to go. I can't tell you what the puzzle looks like until I get the whole thing done. Like, give me these last 4. And at the end of these last 4, if we're where you think we are, Bryan, I'm going to go, damn, we ended up there. It was this thing or this thing. But I also think we're about to hit the gas pedal in the next 4, because I think between real world staffing and issues and economy of time and space you have left to land this plane before the end of this season, like, we're about to hit the gas, and I can't wait to see where we go, because at this point we're outside the trailers. We're outside of, basically anything else that we know is coming. So it's wide open space, to use a very awesome Star Wars term. But at this point, I'm just going, what are we doing? And I'm gonna reserve all my judgment if we get to the end and I go, we missed the mark. I'll be the first one to say it. I won't be pissed about it, but I'll say it, and we'll keep going. But I appreciate that in this conversation tonight, your feelings are 100% valid. Chris's are, Bryan's are, even if his name is spelled wrong. Wait, did I say that out loud? But you notice I didn't say which one. I'm still riding the fence here. It's fine. But that's the power of good conversation, positive fans, community that come together and go, hey, we all love this thing. We love it different ways, and that's the way it works. So, and I'm going to kick Bryan out before, but I'm going to give him a last parting shot.
One thing, we're all gentlemen of the same age. We're all within
Sure.
about a year or 2 of each other here.
Very young.
Absolutely.
I look at it this way. Yes, I'm disappointed. I wish it was going in a different direction, but we all grew up when there was nothing.
Nothing.
Yep. I have to say this at least once a week. Yeah.
So my view right now is, yes, it may not be my favorite. Yes, I wish it was going differently, but at least we have something.
But it's here. Yep. 100%.
Look, you give me 2 shows a week, and not just that, I get like 3 or 4 comics per week. What? God, gimme.
Yep. And the best one, Santa Staros #1.
You got to read it. It's my favorite.
Go buy Santa Staros #1.
It's my favorite family in Star Wars, the Star Wars family. Absolutely. Especially after like the first and second episode. Oh, so good.
So good. Well, Bryan Fennessy, we're going to send you on the way. Thank you so much for being a part of the show. Thank you for showing up. We always love hearing from you. Love your support, love your comments, love your thoughts, and we will see you again soon.
All right, I'll talk to you later.
Ding goes the
Gentlemen, I believe we've done it. I believe we've made it to the end of another successful episode of Force Connect. I want to thank, first and foremost, you, Bryan, for filling in this week, being here with us. Your thoughts are very important. I love hearing from you. When we text, we see messages online. You are one of my favorite people, and I love getting to hear, your thoughts and what goes on in your world, because your world is different than mine. And that's an awesome thing. And I always look for the opportunity to learn. I look for the opportunity to observe and take in what goes on in the world. So thank you for being here tonight. Please tell us what you guys have got going on with Pink Milk, what's coming up, and anything you want to plug.
Well, first, thank you for having me again, just to be our own little Twitter echo chamber here. You're 2 of my favorite people. I love it dearly. I appreciate it. A few things we have going on. Well, I'm here with my boy Landau right now, and you'll be able to see me bald and more bald as Lobot on Blue Pantherverse, everyone.
That's right.
Hey.
It's going down, baby. You guys aren't ready. It's going to be fantastic with my Lobot. I can't wait.
Lando says it's going down, but I'm the one who's about to go down. That was scripted, everyone. That didn't come out that easily.
I love it. Totally works. Totally works.
Okay, you can follow me on the show at Serving Pink Milk on Twitter and on Instagram. I left that TikTok a long time ago. Thank the heavens, greatest decision I think I may have ever made after adopting my children. So we got to put it out there. I don't need anyone thinking I'm a bad dad. So it's great. Especially with my mouth this evening. That was more great parenting. There we go. Anyways, you can follow the show. I have 2 shows, Husband and Husband, where I talk Star Wars with my husband, Tom, who's a casual fan at best. And I force him to talk Star Wars with me, and we usually take deep dives into being queer parents and what it was like being queer in the 80s and 90s and marriage and all of those things. And then we also talk a little bit about Star Wars. And then we have a live stream every Wednesday that you can check live at 9 p.m. East, where we also take deep dives into Star Wars from our queer perspectives. And usually later in the week, we have clips from that show, and the live show goes onto our Patreon right afterwards. But it's always a great time. The Steam Queens, Hope is our wonderful, wonderful, wonderful moderator. Brian, a bunch of Bryans, and our scruffy looking nerf herder over there, Will Beatty, they're all Steam Queens. They're all perfect. And if honestly, I say this on every live stream, no offense to other live streams fans and other podcast listeners, no offense, but the Steam Queens are the greatest Star Wars fans that you'll ever meet. We are all very different people, and if you enjoy these kinds of conversations like we had tonight, where everyone's opinions are valid and open and healthy conversations, come join the Steam Room on Wednesdays at 9 p.m.
Absolutely.
100%. They have some of the best conversations. Like I get home, like when I used to get home on Friday nights before I was doing Force Connect, and I'm just like cooking dinner or whatever, man, I throw on Pink Milk, and it's just like some great conversations, like them talking about Return of the Jedi and Luke's journey and everything. And just if you haven't already, please go subscribe and check them out. Amazing,
100%.
Amazing.
Agree completely. Chris, tell us about Braxium this week. What do you guys got going on?
Okay, well, let's see. Star Bros have a new episode coming out next week. We've got BX Gaming on Tuesday nights. I think they're doing Dead Space again. Got 3 comics coming out. We have a Return of the Jedi comic, which is going to be on Jabba the Hutt, the Palace. You have that. We have 2 High Republic books in the Blade, and High Republic number 7. So we'll be quick shots for that. And Dan, child willing, we'll be doing the Dandalorian this week, probably tomorrow. Nice. So,
excellent.
Those Star Bros boys have some of the greatest podcasting voices ever. It is it not the most calming. It really is. Yeah. Like 100%. Sometimes when I'm stressed out at work, I'm not gonna lie, I go to YouTube and I listen to them, and I just like. Oh,
did you say Star Wars NPR? Is that what you said?
ASMR. They are easy listening. They are Star Wars AM radio in the absolute best way possible.
Love it.
Yeah, Ben and Jan are amazing. Love those guys.
Amazing. Outstanding. Well, put in a little bit of a plug. We teased it last week. We didn't get there this week. Like I said, we were a little bit busy, a little bit out of pocket. I believe coming up this next week, we are going to have I completely blanked. What's his name? Fanboys. This is such a bad look for me right now.
Just blame me.
We're gonna edit this out. Had whiskey tonight. It's fine. Kyle Newman. Director of Fanboys, and is one of the producers of Disturbance in the Force, which is the documentary about the Star Wars holiday special that came out. They debuted it at South by Southwest a couple weeks ago. Pete and I got to watch an early copy of it, interview him. Such a fun conversation, something that is such a pop culture, juggernaut force out there that, just kind of exists on the periphery. Getting to hear about the voices behind it, how it got made, what went on. Such a fun conversation. That interview is going to be coming up hopefully this Thursday in the ATG Cast podcast stream. So check that out. As we said at the top of the show, you can hit streamingstarwars.com. You can check out the website, the merch, all the different things that are going on. In the meantime, we're going to be hanging out on social media. We're going to be trying our very best not to get drugged down in the mud. Sometimes it happens and we don't like it, but we pull ourselves right back out because Star Wars is faking in space and this is supposed to be fun. And that's what we're banking on. So,
damn right.
As we get ourselves out of here tonight, Chris, may the Force be with you.
Always.
Just one more round, friend, then homeward bound, friend. Don't forget me in your dreams. Just one more song, friend, and then so long, friend. The nights get shorter, it seems. Just one more rhyme, friend. Yes, it's a crime, friend. But you know time, friend. Time can fly. So it's good night, friend. Good night, but not goodbye.